this is Caitlin here, and welcome back to Card Game Wednesday, the day of the week where we enjoy all things card game related. And I hope you enjoyed my Force of Will GP London vlog from last week. It ended up not being a lot of Force of Will in that video, mainly because I had to drop out of the GP just because I felt like I just wasn't doing too well with the current meta and whatnot, and most of my friends and that, we weren't playing too well, and we just wanted to enjoy the weekend. But I hope you enjoyed the video anyway. You got a little insight into how horrible it is to play in a very Sherry dominated meta, but I thought this week I would do a little deck profile because some people were interested in what I was playing because I was playing Raya for the weekend, and some people were interested in my Raya list, so I thought I would go over and do the deck profile now. If you are a patron on my Patreon page, you'll have already seen this deck profile in gacha log form, because that's where I post some exclusive content. People see things a bit early on there, so if you've not checked it out yet, it's at the end of the video. You can see all the patrons who have pledged, supporting the channel and everything like that. But diving into this deck list here, I am of course playing Reiya. I thankfully have my unsealed rare, or partially unsealed rare, because her other side is not unsealed yet. You basically know everything that she does pretty much. She has a Judgment of 3, which is 2 black and 1 void. Her Energize is black. At the beginning of the game, we put a mystery counter on her, and her unsealed ability, we get an extra 2 mystery counters. So we basically start with 3 mystery counters, and she has the tap ability to put a mystery counter on her. We are really not doing that unless, you know, we've tapped all our stones and she's already died. So, but when she Judgments, she is a 12/12, which is pretty good. She is flying, a vampire. When she enters the field, you put 3 mystery counters on her. You can tap and remove a mystery counter from the card and destroy a target Resonator. I wish this removed Resonators from the game rather than destroying them for many reasons. I also kind of wish that it wasn't a target ability, because that means it can be cancelled pretty easily. I wish it was just like remove entity or something your opponent controls. I wish it wasn't like something that was a specific target, but you know that probably would have been too powerful if it didn't target. And obviously we don't know what her sealed item is at the bottom here. So I was playing her. My main strategy here for Reiya was to preferably not to flip her, but to rely on like ramping up mystery counters pretty quickly. I would say that my deck is more like a kind of Resonator aggro sort of, because my main focus is getting like my cheap Resonators out that can get very big and then use the mystery counters as support for them. That was my main goal. Obviously I had ways of like the removal for Resonators, like destruction, basically giving it a hard time and whatnot for my opponent, but literally the matches I went up against, it was like not too well in all honesty. But I'll go over my whole list and whatnot. So starting off here, I have about 3 bats from the Dark Castle here. When I originally built this, I ran 4, but I felt like in this format where there was a lot of cards that were basically like, hey, destroy that Resonator with like 400 defense or less or whatnot, I was like, this isn't too good. So I went it down to 3. Normally I had 4, but I went it down to 3. So 1 cost is 0/400. It has flying obviously, and it gains 200 attack for each mystery counter on your J-Wheeler. Again, mystery counters are pretty good for this deck and everything, so that's why I want to try and beef them up. There was one game where I managed to get the bats to about 2,000, but my opponent was just like, hey, we're going to Amaterasus Force like that. And like, that was, it killed me inside. There's not really much else to say about the bats. Next up, we are running 4 of Dark Riding Hood, Messenger of Truth. She's also a really good one because quite a few of the decks I went up against, they had some kind of removal that was either darkness. A few of them did run some kind of red removal or whatnot, or rather red spells that did damage and everything, so it was quite handy because she's a 2-drop 6/6, but you can remove a mystery counter to invert her. And when she inverts, she is really, really good. She's basically the Red Riding Hood Recovered Hope. She has barrier from fire and darkness, and she's 800/800. What I like to do, if I had the Energize, I would play her turn 1, invert her, and then by turn 2 I had like an 8/8 that could swing, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, when people see this, they're trying their best to kill it, because obviously when she flips over, she is a lot stronger. But I still like her a lot, which is why I ran 4 of her in this deck here. I'm going to try and sort my cards out so it's not an absolute mess. Going up to the next stuff, I don't actually have all the cards with me at the moment because I had to borrow some cards because I don't own another copy of Abdul. I don't know where my other Abdul is. I still have the 2 Vingolf ones, but I don't know where they actually are. I need to try and find them somewhere. But for the sake of purposes, imagine this empty sleeve is an Abdul, and it's the promo one. I ran this mainly to deal with Rachel's. Rachel was a pain in my backside when I was deck testing, and I was contemplating whether to sideboard Abdul or keep him main deck. And going up against my matchups and everything, main boarding him probably was the right decision to do. because obviously I went up against a Lumia, I went up against a Zero that obviously was using Lorites and Rachels and everything, and so I did manage to get him off quite a couple of times. In my game against the, what was his name again? The Wanderer dude, I can't remember his name. I can't even remember his name. It's off the top of my tongue. Nope, I can't remember it. But anyway, that dude, his Sherry and stuff was really annoying, the Will of Despair one, and he used, I think it was Null Page, or that edition that's a book where it's like, hey, remove this Resonator, you can't play this Resonator, blah 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 blah. That was really, really annoying. But you know what he does, he stops enter abilities from triggering and everything like that. He's a 6/6, he's alright. He does die pretty easily to some removal and whatnot, so it wasn't as good, but I think he did play his part there. And then I am also running 2 Dark Red Riding Hoods, or Dark Riding Hood as she's more commonly known. She's the 3-drop Darkness, 700, 800. She has a big wall of text here, so I'm going to go to this one so I can actually properly read it. But the full art is very pretty. So she has this big wall of text. This card gains, whenever this card deals damage to a Resonator, you destroy that Resonator as long as your life is 2,000 or less. She gains Swiftness as long as your life is 1,000 or less. When this card enters the field, you may remove 2 mystery counters from your J-Ruler. If you do remove target Resonator from the game, I use this ability a lot. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure I used it in all of my games. And whenever she attacks, it deals 200 damage to target player or Resonator, and you gain 200 life. She's mainly in there to do like removal with the mystery counters, and obviously to deal the 200 damage and 200 life thing. But she's also good, and so is the other little red, is good for Grim here, who I run 4 of. This Grim is so good. He's like the MVP, I would feel like, of this deck. Hold on, let me move my cards around here so it's a bit more organised to the side of me. I'm running 4 of him because he's just too good for a 3-drop. He is absolutely amazing. So what he does is, he is a 3-drop, obviously. He's 1 Darkness and 2 light, not 2 light, 2 Void. Grim of the Crimson Moon. He's a 7/7. He has Flying and Barrier from Light and Darkness, which is very, very good in this format. A lot of removal is either Darkness or Light, so he's pretty good in that regard. And when he enters the field, you reveal any number of Fairy Tail Resonators from your hand. Put 100/100 counter on this card for each card revealed this way. And he is also a Fairy Tail, so other Grims count for this. Whenever this card attacks, you put 2 mystery counters on your J-Ruler, again, ramping up mystery counters. And whenever you do Judgment of a ruler, you may remove 2 mystery counters if you do invert him. And then when he inverts, he becomes very, very pretty and sparkly and gorgeous. We flip him over and he becomes Grim, Hope from the Future, who is a 1000/1000 with Flying and Barrier from Light and Darkness. When he inverts, you target non-magic stone entity and it loses Imperishable, and this card cannot be destroyed until end of turn. Then destroy that entity. Cards in your opponent's graveyard lose all abilities. He is very, very good, obviously, for J-Ruler removal, for basically destroying them, blowing them up, and making sure that they can't come back. I always forget in my games because I feel like it doesn't come up very often in games that I've played where you have to deal with a ruler with Imperishable. But if you don't remove that Imperishable, that J-Ruler keeps coming back. That kind of screwed me over in a game against Lumia, where I forgot that unless you remove the Imperishable just stays, so they can just flip the ruler again. I was like, oh, that's a problem. I completely forgot. I've been playing this game for how many years now, and I completely forgot that's how Imperishable worked. But yeah, Grim is meant to be the MVP of the deck. He is a good boy, racking up those counters, racking up the mystery counters, and just doing a lot of good work. So I would say he's probably the MVP of this deck. If not, it's probably probably the inverted Red Riding Hood, or Dark Riding Hood rather. Next up for the Resonators, I think these are the last of the Resonators. I was running 2, again I had to borrow one of these from my friend, so that's why I've got an empty sleeve. I had 2 of Gil Lapis, the Usurper of Maddening Power. I can never say it with this fancy text here, it's kind of hard. He's a Light, a Darkness, and a Void, a 600/700. He has Will of Despair, which really doesn't matter, and Precision. When he enters the field, you search your deck for a Light or Darkness chant from total cost 1, reveal it and put it into your hand, then you shuffle your deck. Effects of chance you control cannot cause you to lose life, which is alright. And this card gains 100 for each other Resonator with Will of Despair, which doesn't really bother us. We're not really playing it for that. We're playing it for the fact that we can search out a 1-drop spell, which we have a lot of 1-drop spells actually, which is the main reason why we've got him. And the last Resonator that we've got is Arla the Lightwing. He is mainly here to try and protect both Raya and Grim, because once they hit the field, your opponent is going to try very hard to get rid of them. And even though Grim has Barrier from Light and Dark, there is the problem that they maybe have blue if they're maybe doing some Lumia multicolor nonsense and whatnot, so they'll try and bounce him and everything, so that's why I've got him. He's also handy for Addition Hate, because he's a 4-drop, obviously he's 2 Light and 2 Void, 800/800. He gives your J/Resonator a Flying Barrier. You can tap him and deal 400 damage to target attacking J/Resonator. You can pay a Light and tap him to destroy an Addition or Regalia. Regalia's not really relevant because it's not in the format now. and if you pay 3 light and tap, you can destroy target J/Resonator with flying. I mainly used this to try and give Grim and Reiya a barrier, and then in one game when someone put up a Zero's magic circle of protection, which I believe I was against the Zero player, they lore-ited this ability twice, which was a pain in the backside. I was like, why are you doing this to me? Why does lore-ite exist? But the idea is to try and get him to protect our Resonators with flying. And next up for spells here, now we are running, which might seem a bit overkill, we are running 4 Soul Concentration, which some people might think this is a tad overkill, but in a deck where I want to gain mystery counters very quickly, I think it's a good call. Considering it's a 1-cost chant with quick cast, I think it's really good. You put either 3 mystery counters on your J/ruler, or you can put 2 100/100 counters on the target J/Resonator you control. I pretty much always use it for the mystery counters. I rarely ever do it for the actual ++ counters on a Resonator. I just feel like that's maybe not the best use of it. We are also running 2 Twin Blades of Hope and Despair. I really like this card. The only issue I have with this card, obviously, is that you need to have both targets in order to resolve the spell. So there must be a Resonator that you can buff, and there must be a Resonator your opponent controls to give -6/6. Otherwise, you can't resolve this spell. But I like when you resolve it, you can obviously invert it, and it becomes one of the most gorgeous card arts in this game right now, Sword of Fate, which sadly isn't quick cast. It's 2 light and 2 darkness. I was going to say void there, but it's not. You can play this card only from your removed area. You choose one, destroy target J/Resonator, or put target Resonator with total cost 5 or less from your graveyard into the field. This is always just for J-Ruler hate. This is always for just destroying J-Rulers. I wish this was quick cast. I swear I wish it was quick cast to deal with your opponent's J-Ruler on their turn, so that you don't have to wait till your turn and use up all your will on there, but I digress. I suppose it'd be too powerful if it was quick cast, but it is a very, very good card, and I'm glad. I'm actually trying to, oops, I'm dropping cards. I'm very glad that it exists, as I try to put this back in the sleeve here off camera. There we go. So I'm very glad that it exists. I also run 2 Amaterasu's Foresight. I'll be very sad when this card leaves the format because it's one of the best ways to deal with Ayu, even though I never played Ayu in any of my games. It's a quick cast, 1 light, 1 void. You basically prevent all damage that would be dealt by J/Resonators this turn. It's a hella good card. The promo is very, very pretty. Not much else to say about it. This is basically stall the game. Make sure you don't take any more damage than necessary, especially if it's big beefy damage like 2 gate from Adelbart. That was his name, the Wanderer guy. I finally remembered his name. His name's Adelbart. That's it. I couldn't remember his name for the life of me. And next up here we have 2 Sword of the Half Moon. When I originally made this list, I randomly put this at 3, and I couldn't remember why I made it 3. I was like, I only need 2. Really, this definitely only need 2, so that's why I fixed it to 2. It's a quick cast 2 darkness. Target J/Resonator gains -6/6 until end of turn, and if this card was awakened, you put it into its owner's hand as it resolves. You remove 2 mystery counters to awaken it, which is, I got confused at first whenever I played this spell. I thought it meant that you put the Resonator that you're targeting into their hand. No, it means that you put this card back into your hand, which is really, really good, even though it's a bit expensive at 2 mystery counters. I did this constantly to try and kill J-Rulers because this also targets J's. So yeah, I would maybe resolve this maybe 3 times in a turn, given if I don't get Severing Winded, because that would be really annoying if I did. And I'm pretty sure that did happen at one point when I was about to kill a J-Ruler, they Severing Winded the second one. I was like, oh, you kill me here with your plays, but I like it a lot, I like it a lot. We are running 3 Miscalculation, or Miscalculations, or Miscalculation. It is a 1-drop, it's quick cast obviously, 1 light, it destroy target attacking Resonator. Not much else to say here. If I could complain about anything, I kind of wish it was J/Resonator, but then it would be too strong for just a 1-cost quick cast and everything, even though it can be very easily cancelled, because there's lots of things to cancel, all these 1-drops and quick casts and everything like that, but I wish it did target J's as well. But I digress. You know, we can destroy something that's going to hit us like for, you know, 1 light, which is very, very nice. And then we've got some one-off spells here. I've got Revival of the Clan, and I've got False Peace. Revival is a 1-cost darkness. It's a mystery chant, and you know, it doesn't really matter at the moment. You put target Resonator from your graveyard into your hand, and if you awaken it by removing a mystery counter, you get 2 Resonators instead, which is very handy. I did run this at 2 at one point, but I felt like it was just clogging up my deck, and I was drawing it at like the really wrong time. Like I was drawing it when like I had no Resonators to bring back from grave, so that's why I dropped it to a 1-off, and then I only have 1 copy of this, which is why I only ran 1 of it, but it's actually a very good chant. It's a 1-cost quick cast, which we can search out with Gil as well. You gain 400 life and you draw a card. And then when you invert it, if I can flip this over, because it's nice and shiny on this side, we get Deadly Pox, which is a 2 cost, it's 1 darkness and 1 void. Your opponent loses 400 life and they discard a card. So it is very nice. I only have 1 of it, otherwise I feel like I might have ran more, just for a bit of life gain and card draw and everything, because there's not really many ways to draw. I think this is actually the only way for me to draw in this deck. But I did like using this card, it was pretty nice. I believe I managed to resolve it at least a few times. Next up, we've got 3 copies of Forbidden Arts. Pretty simple one. It's a quick cast, 1 light and 1 darkness. You destroy target Resonator. 9 times out of 10 this got cancelled, or it got cancelled by either Severing Winds, or it got Fair Spelled, or some other card that was like, hey, you're not going to play a spell this turn, which was super annoying. Next up, I have 2 Blood Ritual, which I'm pretty sure I sideboarded every single game because they weren't good in my main deck. I don't know why I ran this in my main deck, but I did. It's a 1 cost quick cast darkness. Target J/Resonator gains +6/+6 until end of turn, and you lose 400 life. Remove a mystery counter from your J/Ruler. That J/Ruler gains 900. Instead, you lose 600 life. I always sided this out. It was never helpful. I always sided it out. And that's pretty much it. I'm pretty sure I only resolved this maybe once in 1 game. Next up, I have 1 Vitality Drain because it's a 5 cost and it's way too expensive to run it more than 1. It's 2 Darkness and 3 Void. You gain 1000 life and your opponent loses 1000 life and you gain 1000 life. So it's just one of those kind of part of the card, draw this out please, I need life very badly. And Awakening it, you remove a mystery counter from your J-Ruler. This card deals 1000 damage to a target Resonator as well, which is hella good for only 1 mystery counter, even though you're paying 5 to play it, but I like it a lot. And then we have 1, because I only have 1, Flourishing Hope. I wish I had more of this, because this is actually a really good card. This side is quick cast for 1. You target J/Resonator against this card cannot be destroyed until end of turn, and then you invert it, and it becomes one of the most broken cards in the game. Burgeoning Despair, which is a Darkness and 2 Void. Play this card only from your removed area. Target player banishes 2 Resonators. This card annoyed me so much. Pretty sure the Lumia and the Zero player I went with both had this card. And it was a pain in the backside to deal with when I had to banish my own stuff and I couldn't stop it. It was so annoying. I hated it. It was annoying. But going into my stone deck, because that's the main deck done, pretty simple stuff. I ran 2 Shadowy Light Magic Stones. Again, produces darkness, you remove a counter, produces light. We've got 4 Magic Stone of Heaven's Rift. Pretty basic stuff for just light or darkness. And I ran 4 of Raya's Stone from the Dark Castle, which when it enters, gives you a mystery counter and it produces black. Nothing really to say about the stone deck. I mean, it's pretty standard for this Raya deck. You know, lots of sources of light, lots of sources of darkness, pretty good stuff. And then I'll quickly go into side deck. Most of the time, I actually didn't side too much, except for the cases where I always sided out. Blood Ritual, I had 0. I never sided into 0 because none of my matchups I ever felt like 0 would actually help any. Maybe she would have helped against the game with the other 0 player and whatnot, but I feel like she wasn't really going to be much help here, so I never actually sided into her. I did side into this a lot because it was actually pretty good. Target J/Resonator loses all abilities until end of turn, and you draw a card. I ran 3 of these in the side deck, so I feel like it was pretty good. I'm pretty sure I sided into this a lot. This, I didn't side into because it was no help whatsoever, or it would have been no help whatsoever considering my opponent's. Black Tears, which is a 1 darkness, 1 void. You destroy all Resonators with total cost 1 or less. I have 2 of these in the side deck, but I never sided into it once. I didn't side this either, as Sword of the New Moon. I don't think it really would have helped me. It's a 1 quick cast darkness. You choose 1, destroy target Resonator with total cost 1 or less, or destroy target Resonator with total cost 4 or less if it was awakened, and to awaken it you remove a mystery counter. I ran 2 of these, never sided into them. I had 2 Jeanne of Arc for like more speedy aggro play, but again, I don't think I actually sided into her at all. You've seen her quite a few times in deck profiles of mine, so I won't go over everything that she does. She is very, very good though, I will say that. I did side into this because this was one of my main plays here, was 0 Circle of Protection. Mainly to give me barrier from things that were annoying me, like green or blue, like basically things that maybe Grim didn't have barrier against. I side into this a lot. Faithful Vampire, I think I only sided into this against the Edelbar to try and gain life because I was losing life so quickly, but I never actually got to play him. I did have 2 Myth Softies, I had to borrow 1 from a friend. This was mainly to deal with, I believe, it wasn't Lumia, I think it was 0. Playing this against Lumia is like suicide, obviously, because things come in rested, which is, you know, basically helping them a lot, so that's why I was like, okay, no, we don't do this. I think I only played him once, and I never got to invert him. But I'll show off his inverted side because it is very, very pretty. The 1000, J/Resonator opponent controls gain -2/2, which is basically a better Alice's Mad World, and Resonators entering the field under your opponent's control don't cause their own abilities to trigger, which is basically a bigger Abdul, which is also very squishier if your opponent is playing Black Tears, because inverts technically are 0 cost. So I did run through them. My friend let me borrow one. And then this last blank card here, which is just a sleeve. You'll be like, why are you just waving about a sleeve, Caitlin? This was a final battle, which I did side into a couple of times, but I never got to resolve, because I'm pretty sure it got cancelled most of the time. Or it got removed from my hand, or something like that. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this GP deck profile and whatnot. Again, I like this deck. It maybe wasn't good for the format. Again, I never actually played an Scheherazade. But it maybe wasn't the best idea for the format, but it is a fun deck. I enjoyed it. I played it a lot at locals and everything, and it does pretty well at my locals and stuff like that. But I'm not too sure what I'm going to build. I might wait and see what is going to be happening with Winds of the Ominous Moon and everything before I decide what I want to build next. But this video was made possible thanks to patrons such as Houston Moore, Alucard, and Craig McCutcheon.